to Storytime at the Rebus, a weekly podcast about the Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival. I'm your host, Sharla.
And I'm Daniel. I'm here too, I think.
You're here?
I'm pretty sure.
You sure?
Pretty sure. This got really deep all of a sudden, but
did.
yes, we are both here. I am vaxxed, waxed, and ready to party, as they've been saying lately.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hey, there was a really funny thing on Saturday Night Live the other night. I reposted this on our Instagram story. Colin Jost had this joke about how months ago there was a fear about democracy surviving, and now the concern is summer 2021 going to be the most turnt-ass summer ever? And my answer is yes. Yes, it is.
It's going to be the new hashtag?
Turnt-ass summer 2021. Hashtag that.
Yeah.
Ooh, we are going to make that a thing.
Just turnt-ass summer.
Turnt-ass summer. Okay. You have to clarify that. But yes, it is going to be that because we've got a couple of fun months ready to go where we're all going to be getting ready for Bonnaroo, and we have that coming up Labor Day weekend, just a couple of weeks before the end of summer. I know Labor Day weekend is the unofficial end, but come on, let's be for real. It's up until like the 20th or something like that, isn't it?
In the South it is.
Oh, yeah. That's something that we should talk about really quick. There have been some people talking about how, it's going to be cooler since it's later. No, y'all, it ain't. It ain't.
Let's just, let's take a step here.
Yeah.
We live about an hour south of the farm.
Yeah.
I've lived in the South my entire life. Y'all, it ain't going to be cold in September.
No. In fact, it's probably more likely to be cooler in June than it is in September. Do you remember a couple of years ago at Bonnaroo? I think Thursday night, it got downright cool. It was like barely 60 degrees. A lot of people had on coats. You never see people wearing coats at Bonnaroo. That's unheard of. You know?
I might bring a fur.
A fur?
I'm just playing.
No, don't do that. Oh my gosh. Fur is murder, and you should know that.
A faux fur.
A faux fur. Okay, yeah. But no, for real, Labor Day weekend is going to be hot as blazes. Not like surface of the sun hot, but like you're going to wonder why.
Up there.
Yeah. If you thought it was going to be cool Labor Day weekend, no. I'm afraid you're mistaken. It won't be. Please plan on it being hotter than it usually is. If any of our friends have been to Dragon Con in Atlanta that same weekend, you probably already know how hot it can get.
Something else.
Yeah.
The weather in our area, it could like snow 1 minute and then 10 minutes later be 50 degrees outside.
Yeah, that is true.
That has literally happened before.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen Labor Day weekend.
Not Labor Day weekend.
No.
But I'm just saying, the weather changes like all the time, so.
Yeah, so take our word for it. Please prepare for it to be hot. I mean, I could be proven wrong and it could be a little cool that weekend, but I really, 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 really doubt it.
It could get a little cooler at night, like a tinge.
Yeah.
But.
Not really.
It's not going to be like cooler, like weather-wise in the daytime.
Hey, something else really exciting. This is going to release on Tuesday the 25th, and that is an important day. Do you know why?
100 Days to Bonnaroo.
Yeah. You know, that is crazy. I feel like that 100-day mark is something that I notice every year, well, in a normal year anyways, because that last 100 days just has flown by for me in a normal year when Bonnaroo is about here, right?
Yeah.
I always remember sitting at my office and work and seeing something across social media.
100 days.
Yeah, the Bonnaroo account on Twitter or Instagram will put out a thing, 100 days to go. And you think, that's a while away. But then that just flies by.
When I used to work in an office, I would like literally put a countdown on my desk and just count that backwards from 100. And every day I would come to work and mark off a day.
Yeah, we're both working from home now. Are you going to do that now?
No.
Can we put something on our fridge?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
We got a little magic marker board on the fridge. Can we please put that there?
Well, I have something else wrote on there now and I can't erase it.
Oh, well, let's put something else. I'll post that online and let everybody know. Somebody has been doing a funny thing on the Bonnaroo Reddit where they have been posting
That's cool.
a different picture. Today's was 101 Dalmatians because it's 101 days ago. Ooh, we got to come up with some good things for like different numbers.
Now, I did.
Like 69 days ago would be like nice.
I think it was last.
She's going to ignore that.
But, oh, yeah, I did.
Anyway.
Now, a couple years ago on Twitter, I did like gifts.
Gifts? Let's do that.
Different numbers, yeah.
Let's find gifts of different numbers.
That's what I did on the Twitter.
All right, I'm putting you in charge of that. Every day, find a different gift for how many days there are to go. That'd be fun. And so when y'all see these gifts, that's all Sharla.
Okay.
Don't come at me. Don't at me. Don't at me about that. That's all Sharla. Okay, that's some fun stuff. But let's get to what we were really planning on doing for this week. We hope that you listened last week. Go back if you haven't already. We have been going through kind of the history of Bonnaroo. So this is a big anniversary. It's the 20th anniversary of Bonnaroo. It's not the 20th Bonnaroo, but it's been going on for 20 years now. In fact, the 20th anniversary is here in just a few weeks because the first one would have been, in the beginning of June in 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that that's going to be recognized. We certainly are right now. I just realized it. I hadn't even thought about that,
What, wouldn't that be in 2022? I'm so confused.
Yeah, the years, we're getting old in the years.
I'm so confused.
The years are flying by. But yes, it is the 20th anniversary.
How does that work?
I don't know. But we had been looking at the history of all this last week.
Oh, because you got to count 2002, maybe?
I suppose.
I don't know.
I'm confused. Anyway, last week we looked at the history like in the before times, before Bonnaroo. Starting all the way back in the late 60s, because there's a lot of context for music festivals and such. But this week, we're going to pick it back up in the 90s, kind of go back a little bit, and then we're going to talk about the beginnings of Bonnaroo and kind of lead it up into today. What do you think? You want to get started?
Yes, I do want to get started. About Ichiku. And Ichiku is a really important era of Bonnaroo.
Yeah, so it's kind of in the before times of Bonnaroo again. It happened in 1999, and this was not some corporately organized festival. It was basically a lot of local people, some of which who really did know what they were doing, had a fairly good lineup for that age demographic at that time, and basically threw a festival at the farm that we all have grown to know and love in Manchester, Tennessee. It just happened that one time, but it was an important deal to show that something like that could happen at that farm just right off the interstate in Manchester. And you and I have heard some stories from that Ichiku event, right?
Well, I know our friend Tammy that actually owned the bus before we bought the bus. She went to Ichiku, like the very Ichiku before Bonnaroo.
We met another guy at the Cracker Barrel on one of our Monday morning, traditional breakfast brunch or whatever that had been to every Bonnaroo and Ichiku. He was a local person, and he looked like a fantastic and awesome wizard.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I have a photo of me sitting on the hood of the bus and him sitting there with some relic of Bonnaroo past. I need to find that. I'll repost that. It was amazing. But we'll come back to that in a little bit and tell you why that was important. But also, we want to flash back a little bit to that era. I know that there's a lot of college-age Ruvians that listen to us. Sharla and I are going to show you our age a little bit because we have to explain, kind of this weird era in time from around 1999 to 2001 and why it was so nuts and why it kind of laid the foundation for this all to happen successfully. Right. Now, I'm going to get serious just for a second. This is something I rarely do. I don't like getting that serious. But early 99 was a really weird time for our age group because I think it was in April of that year, Columbine happened out in Colorado. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but that was just a huge cultural milestone for our weird little portion of our demographic. It kind of made high school culture really weird and awkward for a little while there. And it kind of was one of the things that brought our generation to the internet, where we can more explore the social structure of high school and such.
Right.
It was a way for us to get on different things like AOL Instant Messenger. In fact, that's how you and I met. Remember?
I mean, that's how we
back
started
in the day.
Talking. Yes.
Yeah. There was a lot of things that just brought younger people more to the internet at that time, which at that time was something totally different. There was no phones. There were phones. We had no phones. We used 2 tin cans and a string. No, I'm just saying there was no Android or iPhones.
We're so old, we didn't have phones.
Yeah. No, they were phones, but they had cords attached to them. Nothing like you would know now.
Well, no, we had cell phones.
Yeah.
But cell phones existed, but not in the same way.
Yeah. But the internet to us then was a terrible 56K modem, AOL Instant Messenger.
With AIM.
Yeah, AIM. There was no Facebook or anything. We used forums. So that was where Ichiku kind of came from. Right. Because that was one of the few places that people had to come online and discuss Bonnaroo and kind of prep.
That's how people found out about these early festivals like Ichiku and like the very first Bonnaroo. They found out about it on these music forums.
Mm-hmm. And something else that was a big trigger for a lot of people when it comes to music in that whole like era was Napster. I know many may not really know what that is nowadays. We're really aging ourselves. But for those of us that grew up in that time period, Napster was huge. You know, I'm taking away like the legality of that whole thing, but it was huge because it was a way for us to find and discover music in a way that we couldn't up until that point.
So back in our day, back in the late 90s, so if you wanted to listen to music, you could go to the CD store, which was the record store at the mall, or you could go to Walmart, but mainly you went to the record store at the mall and you had to actually physically buy a CD of the band or whatever.
What was life like before the war?
And then you had to take it home and put it in your CD player.
Oh my God. I remember my first MP3 player.
You would be committed to like that whole album, you know, and that would cost you like a good, probably like what, anywhere from $12 to like $18. As
much as $20, really, yeah. What was your first CD?
My very first CD was Ace of Base.
Mine was Third Eye Blind's Self-Titled. And I bought it from our mutual friend, JT.
Stokes,
yes.
Shout out to JT.
Shout out to JT. We may not have developed the same musical taste if it wasn't for him. Yeah, it's the old high school buddy of ours. Yeah.
So you could go to the CD store, and
you could actually listen to it in the store. Remember putting on like the same headphones as everybody else, like a Neanderthal?
So in the late 90s, when the internet's getting big, somebody came up with a way to download music from the internet, and that was just a revolution at the time.
Yeah. It was amazing because I remember coming in my high school classes at that time and hearing recommendations from people I knew about like bands to check out and such. And you couldn't have done that before then. The best you could do is go to those record stores and spend money that we didn't really have as kids, or record things off of the radio. And then at that point, you're getting like 2 or 3 songs from an album at best, if they happen to be popular. You know?
Then someone came out, you know, it came out with, you could burn CDs. You could, well, even the term burning a CD is so outdated right now. You could put music, take the songs that you had downloaded and put all those onto one CD.
The old school way of making a Spotify playlist.
But only like, there would only be like a few kids at your school that had the computer to do that. So you all would have to like, everybody in school would have to like pay that one kid to do that.
That was me for a little while.
You would have to give him your playlist.
Oh my gosh. I remember downloading a lot of Little Kim for some of our friends.
My best friend in high school, I would have to pay her brother, who was in the 7th grade, to download my music. But Napster was a whole like illegal thing.
We didn't care how illegal it was. In fact, we didn't really know. Yeah.
Nobody knew at that time.
It was just like, oh, I can download songs? Awesome.
Yeah. So anyways.
But yeah, that was a big detour just to tell you like how archaic it was at that point for us to hear music. And now some of these people that we knew of, the JT guy that we mentioned was one of these people that would find ways of getting taped shows from like these various Grateful Dead spin-off bands and Fish and Widespread Panic and bands like that. In fact, the first time I ever heard of Bonnaroo was another one of our mutual friends and some of their buddies that was in your class ahead of mine that went to go see Widespread Panic and all of them at the first Bonnaroo. The first era of Bonnaroo. We'll talk more about that later. But anyways, just kind of finish up our flashback. That was a wild time. And that wild time kind of started to come to a close at 9/11 because a lot of us had to grow up a lot more at that time when we were faced with a lot of reality of the world and had to like mature quite a bit after that happened. And that was the thing that really got us more aware of what was going on in the world and really got us on the internet more. And this is all really to just set the stage for you. we just wanted to kind of let you know, like, that was a weird time. And it got a lot of us online for the first time and got us more connected. Now that we've set that stage for you, we want to jump back a little again and go back to the early 90s real briefly. There was a lot of stuff happening in Knoxville, Tennessee, a cool town with the University of Tennessee. We know we have a lot of buddies who are from there or have been there. Kevin from Camp Redruth was there for a long time until him and his wife moved down to Birmingham, of course. Knoxville is a really important town in the history of Bonnaroo because that is where Mr. Ashley Capps kind of hung his hat for a long time. I guess they're still there. AC Entertainment still has an office over there, of course.
Oh, yeah.
That's where Brad and Barry went about a year and a half ago to talk to the bookers before everything hit the fan, of course.
So give me the quick history about what happened there before Bonnaroo.
Okay, so let's give you the TLDR on this. So Ashley Capps started a radio show called Unhinged on the college station over at University of Tennessee. Mm-hmm. He hosted that for like a long time. In fact, I read that he kept doing that up until 2004.
Really? I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, apparently people there loved it. I only recently learned about this from an article that I found while doing our research for this.
That's cool.
And I'll give you some titles of those articles at the end of this episode so you can read up on it yourself. But yeah, he did that until 2004. But a little more back, he started a venue in 1988. Not 98, 88. Mm-hmm. It was called Ella Guru's. It was a place in Knoxville that was a restaurant and a live music venue. It was only around for about a year and a half, 2 years, up until 1990. And it went out of business at that time. But he started booking other shows right after that. For a long time throughout the 90s, they did a thing in Knoxville called Hot Summer Nights. And you know the World's Fair location?
Yes, I'm familiar with the Knoxville World's Fair.
There was a great Simpsons episode about them going to Knoxville.
The Wigosphere, yeah.
Yeah. That sphere is still there, I think, isn't it? I don't know.
Sure.
I've never been there. We'll have to go there and visit sometime.
No, it's not there.
It's not?
It fell over and crashed the rental car.
Oh, in the Simpsons episode.
Yeah.
It's in the Simpsons episode, but it is a real place, the World's Fair Park over in Knoxville. That's where they held Hot Summer Nights for many years, where they hosted different acts. And it did really well until there was some trouble at that park and they couldn't really use the location anymore. I think it was about that time that they started to look into hosting a bigger event, like a festival. So the first one that they held, even before Bonnaroo, was called Mountain Oasis. And it was held just outside of Asheville, North Carolina. And honestly, I could not find a lot about that other than the fact that it existed and that it happened. Yeah, it's so weird. Well, I mean, but at the very least, we know that it provided Ashley Capps and his company some experience about hosting something a little larger than that Hot Summer Nights event over in Knoxville, right?
Right.
So I think that they got the taste for doing it, and it was around this time, in that era that we were talking about, that they heard through some connections that there was a festival called Ichiku, and that it was at a great location. Now, they tell you in real estate, location, location, location. Mm-hmm. That's why Manchester was super important, because think about it. It's kind of in the middle of everything. It's halfway between Chattanooga and Nashville. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of big towns that it's like a day or so drive away. So you could drive in a day from up in Kentucky, where our friend Joe is. You can drive in a day from Atlanta, probably Memphis, a lot of places in the Carolinas. Mm-hmm. Like, we talk about the radius clause on like Reddit and InfoRoo every year when it comes to like bands playing within a certain perimeter. Mm-hmm. But that radius is important for this as well, because Manchester is at a weird crossroads where so many people can drive in.
Right.
From a lot of different locations out on the East Coast.
Well, it's also very important because it's right off the interstate. And if you just had Bonnaroo in a regular city with no interstate, could you imagine the traffic back up? I mean, I've always thought, it'd be cool to have something like Bonnaroo. My parents live out on 60 acres. It'd be cool to have Bonnaroo here. No,
there's no way that could happen.
The traffic.
Your parents live on like some back roads. That would never happen there.
So you have to have, that interstate access right there.
Yeah. And I know that the traffic does get backed up on the interstate, or God forbid you get backed up on Bushy Branch Road. I know that happens to a lot of people.
Not trying to say there's no traffic, but
it has the infrastructure to house the traffic.
Infrastructure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you've got miles and miles and miles of that interstate that runs from Chattanooga to Nashville, you have an off-road lane that you can back that traffic up into.
Right.
In a lot of other places where it's more crowded or like closer to a city center, that would just like back the traffic up for days and days and days, right. Not just hours. So that is critical as to why the farm in Manchester was such a great location for them. And that first year, I really wish that we could talk to somebody that was there, but I've heard that the traffic was a problem because they got a crowd that I'm sure they were happy to have, but they might not have expected. That first one, they had no real traditional advertising. They basically just threw up a website and say, hey, we're selling tickets for this. Mm-hmm. They had some pretty good acts for the crowd that they were looking for at that time. They had Widespread Panic, Trey Anastasio from Phish, the String Cheese Incident, Phil Lesh and Bob Weir, of course, related to the Grateful Dead and all that. And, I mean, it blew the doors off of that place. We talked earlier about how our crowd was very keyed into the internet. I feel like that was instrumental into making it a success.
Oh, absolutely.
Because our crowd at that time was really into jam band stuff, right?
Right.
It was the people that were outside of your high school kicking around a khaki sack and all that.
I mean, kind of.
Yeah, it was totally those people. And at that time, the tickets weren't that expensive, or at least compared to what they're at today. I think it was under $100 to go for the whole 3 days, right?
Really?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, we've got some of the OG tickets laminated in the table in the bus. Yeah. It just did gangbusters. And I would have assumed that there were some people that thought, okay, this is a one-hit wonder. This is a one-time success. But they went 2 or 3 years with the same kind of lineup, the same kind of organization, and it continued to sell out. So it was obvious that they had something like hot on their hands, right? Mm-hmm. And, okay, so we're going to look at this in terms of there being 3, possibly 4 eras of Bonnaroo. So what we've been talking about, what they did with the first Bonnaroo and what they did for a number of years was definitely that first era. That first era was kind of like the Wild West of Bonnaroo, from what we've heard.
I really like where you're going with this, the different eras of Bonnaroo.
Yeah. This one was wild because in addition to these different jam bands and the kind of crowd that would attract, and I'm not trying to be detrimental when I say that, but we all know this for sure. We've all seen this firsthand. If you've been to Bonnaroo, jam bands have a certain crowd that follow them around. They're fun. I mean, sometimes...
Oh, it's so much fun.
Sometimes we joke around and we have whoop jokes and stuff like that. But, like, what's the thing that your dad says about hippies?
He says... Should I say it?
Yeah, you can totally say this. It's okay.
My dad said... This is a direct quote. He said, them hippies sure are good folks. Well, they just like to smoke that left-hand cigarette.
Yeah.
And he said it in a good way, though.
Yeah, he meant that in, like, a very admiring way.
Very positive way.
Yeah. But, okay. Think of a lot of people that come to see those jam band type acts, like Widespread Panic and these Grateful Dead spinoffs, right? Or a Phish or whatever. Think of it in terms of there being much less law enforcement presence and a lot more of an anything goes attitude. And you can kind of get an idea of what those first couple of years of Bonnaroo were like. In fact...
How do you know? Were you there?
Well, I have seen photos. In fact, one of the craziest things I have seen, I did not see this in person because this was before our time. There was something out in the campgrounds called The Box. Have you heard of this? Do you know what this is?
You think this was in the first era or
the
second era?
From what I have heard about The Box, it was definitely in the first era of Bonnaroo.
Oh, okay. Do
you know what it is?
Yes, I know what it is.
Do you want to explain it or should I?
So, supposedly, there's pictures on the internet. You can Google it.
Yeah, there's no supposedly about this. It existed.
Supposedly, there was a strip club.
Yeah.
a homemade strip club.
It was a box made of plywood. And you could go in there, and yes, that was a thing that was there.
I mean, you can look it up.
There are some relics of this first Wild West era of Bonnaroo that still exist. So like Shakedown Street in the back on Bushy Branch Road, when there's a lot of kind of gray area vendors that sell random things and such. I feel like that's kind of a relic of the first years.
So when do you think the second era of Bonnaroo started?
I think it's pretty easy to pinpoint when that started. I would look at the poster for 2006 because that was the first time that they had a headliner that wasn't really a traditional jam band. They brought in Radiohead that year. And I think for a lot of people, that was a sign that they were ready to start branching out to stuff that wasn't in the traditional jam band area. Not to say that Radiohead at all is like a mainstream band. I feel like there's still something that's a bit of an indie darling. But I do think that signified that they were ready to start branching out and bringing in some other audiences.
Okay, and that's also when they started having the comedy tin and didn't have the cinema tin and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was around that time that I think that they really wanted to expand and give it more of that Glastonbury feel, right? With different things. We talked about that in the first part of this series, about how I really suspected that they were inspired by Glastonbury and how it had a lot of different things for them. Not just in terms of like the live performances, but like comedy and different kind of like circus acts or whatever the heck it was.
And Sonic Forest?
Yeah! There's a really great joke that Aziz Ansari did in one of his stand-up routines about the time that he came as a comedy performer at Bonnaroo. And he got a little inebriated, and he visited the Sonic Forest.
I'm in one little area, and I was like, that's the Sonic Forest. I was like, man, how dumb are those hippies to be entertained by something so stupid? And then the last day I was there, I ate mushrooms. And then I was like, Sonic Forest, I totally get you now. And I slapped the shit out of those poles for like 4 hours.
So 2009 was a really big year for Bonnaroo. They had the Beastie Boys play.
Yeah, and that was their last show ever.
Yeah.
I mean, can we tell a quick story about how your friend Amanda was totally an idiot about that?
Well, my friend Amanda went to Bonnaroo that year and got inebriated at Bonnaroo, as one does. And fell asleep and missed the Beastie Boys. But she was like, whatever, I'll see them again.
Nope. That was the last performance they ever gave.
That was their last performance.
Oh my gosh. I would have given anything to have been at that show.
Well, yeah.
I would have waited days to get in that pit. Oh my gosh. If only everybody had known.
Yeah. Who would have ever known?
And you know what? Big props to the people at Bonnaroo for getting that footage and playing it during Virtual Roo last year. That was a big deal. That was the first time I'd ever seen that whole thing. And it was just amazing and heartbreaking at the same time. I love them so much. But yeah, the following year, they brought in another big rap headliner. Who was it again?
JC.
Yeah, I made Charlotte do that on purpose. Her C's sound like Z's.
I've had trouble with that my entire life. Don't make fun of me.
But I've heard from a lot of people that were at that show that was a big deal, especially when he did his version of Forever Young. Like, that was really emotional for a lot of people that year. That's another one I wish I could have been at. That was before our time as well. But I feel like the second era started moving into the third era a little bit on our first year in 2013.
Think so?
Yeah, when Paul McCartney came in.
Yeah.
I feel like that was the year that Bonnaroo went from like, oh, this crazy funny thing that a lot of people go to in Tennessee to being like, whoa, this may be the biggest and best music festival in the world.
I think that was the last year of the second era.
You think so?
Yes.
Now, why do you say that?
Well, actually, no. 2014 probably was the last year of the second era.
That may be true. That was a really wild and diverse lineup that year as well.
Yes.
Because they had Jack White, Kanye, Elton John, and a really diverse, like, kind of undercard as well. And then that kind of sort of continued in 2015. 15, yeah.
So maybe 15 was the last year of the second?
To be honest, if you want to find the real dividing line for the third era, it was kind of when Live Nation swooped in and started doing the corporate buyout thing. And yeah, things got a little weird for a little bit there in what you probably could think of as the third era.
The third era.
When there was a lot more, corporate interference.
Probably that year that tickets went.
Yeah, so definitely, I feel like that was something that brought about a number of changes.
The third era, right there.
Yeah, 2016 was definitely at the beginning of a new era because while that was an awesome year and probably is my second favorite to the amazing year in 2013, it was very sparsely attended. Those of you that weren't there, we can tell you that it was weird to see the fields that empty during late night. You remember that? I remember after we left that Tame Impala show that night, in a daze, of course, we were walking around trying to go to the late night shows at the tents, and it was just like nobody there. It was so weird.
It was so weird. It was like 2 a.m., and we were walking from, I don't remember.
It was that tent, I remember.
Yeah, we were walking between the tents, and like Sed's Dead was playing or something, and
It was between that tent and Jake and Snake's Christmas barn. And it was just a big empty field.
I think Odessa was playing in a tent.
Yeah. Way on the other side, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just empty. There was just nobody.
At like 2 a.m. 2 a.m. at Bonnaroo, you need to be seeing an ungodly amount of people doing God knows what.
You should not be able to walk at 2 a.m. at Bonnaroo. And we took our friend Brandon, and it was his first Bonnaroo. And he goes, this blows my mind that this is a light Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
I was like, you just haven't seen a real Bonnaroo.
Yeah. But attendance was historically low that year. I want to say it was like
45,000.
40, 50,000, something like that. And a sold out Bonnaroo, the attendance is like around 85, 90, something like that. They say that it can be lower if they like purposefully have a lower cap. But realistically, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 to 90, something like that. And there are 100,000 people there when you include all the support people and everything. Yeah. So it should be that crowded. It was not in 2016. And things changed a little bit after that point. In fact, 2018, look, I feel comfortable saying this. I feel like 2018 was a really low point for Bonnaroo because the lineup that year was not good. I'll just be honest. In retrospect, if you go back and look at the poster for 2018, it's a little embarrassing. Like, we did have some good headliners. There was a really good set from Muse that year, and the Killers put on a good show. Eminem was there. He's a big draw for a lot of people. If you go past that line, there's a few names here or there, but for the most part, it does not look like a Bonnaroo lineup. And I kind of feel like that was a wake-up call to some people because the very next year, I kind of feel like they went for broke and just said, screw it. We're like, you know what? Let's keep Bonnaroo weird. Let's make Bonnaroo Bonnaroo. That was the year that we got like 2 sets of Fish, Gambino, and just it was all over the place. That 2019 lineup was like somebody took all the Jenga blocks from a festival and just threw it all over the place. Yeah. But it was in a great way. And that was kind of a return to form in terms of what we talked about making it a little bit more like Glastonbury. That's when you really start seeing a lot more involvement in the campgrounds. I feel like that involvement with campground activities really put Bonnaroo over the top and gave it its identity back, right?
Exactly. Like, personally, I like when the lineup is very diverse like that.
Yeah. Well, not just the lineup. A diverse lineup is great because you're going to see a lot of stuff that you would normally never see. You discover new things that you love. But I love the diversity in the activities, too.
Yes,
so all the pod or plaza, whatever you want to call it, all the activities that are happening out there are fantastic. You know, in recent years, we've had amazing stuff from the House of Yes out in their plaza. The people from Walter Productions bringing like their big rigs, like the big red bug and things like that. Mm-hmm. What else has there been out there? The new Where in the Woods thing. People just love the hell out of that.
I mean, House of Yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we talked about that.
Did we say that?
Yes. We can keep talking about them because I love them so much. That's one of my favorite things out in the campgrounds.
I'm still playing with this putty.
Yo, you're okay. But 2019, I feel like, was an instrumental year for the history of Bonnaroo. And it's a shame that we missed last year because they were certainly following the trends that 2019 set. Oh, God, we'll never talk about that year again. That year never existed. Stop talking about it.
The year.
Yeah. But from what we have seen so far, maybe we're kind of entering a fourth era post-pandemic, and maybe 2019 was the transition to the fourth era.
I think yeah, you might be right.
Yeah.
Let me back up.
Because in 2019, when we had that wild lineup that, you know, it was just like, hey, why not? 2 nights of Fish. Why the hell not? And having Gambino headline, when they gave him that trust to do whatever the heck he wanted with the stage, and kind of having 2 lines of headliners per day, they're continuing that this year by listing all different bands based on the day that they play, of course. And since we're having so much more involvement with things happening in the campgrounds, especially with involvement with the groups, I feel like the organizers of Bonnaroo realize that the people coming back to Bonnaroo year after year are what makes it so special. So there's a little bit more focus on the group area this year. Now that it has moved, I know that's going to suck for a few people, but they have their own plaza now. That is big. Being able to give the community more involvement in what is happening at the festival and the direction of the festival, that keeps people intertwined and involved for years. And maybe that's part of this upcoming fourth era. And if so, I am just ridiculously excited about that.
Oh, I agree.
What would you like to see in this forthcoming fourth era, now that we're kind of done looking into the past and looking ahead to the future?
So I know we've discussed this before, but I would definitely love to see the legacy acts return.
Oh,
a little
yeah.
bit more. And when I say legacy acts, it doesn't have to be another Paul McCartney or another Elton John. Some like mid-tier legacy acts would be good.
So somebody not as expensive as Elton John or Paul McCartney.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like a
Peter Frampton.
He's probably pretty expensive.
Oh, really?
But,
Okay.
But
okay.
you know, like a mid-tier.
They had
legacy
Alice Cooper one year. That would be another get.
He's probably pretty expensive.
You think so?
But you know, like a low to mid-tier legacy.
Okay, well, get back with me on who that might be.
Okay, I'll think about it.
If you ask me that question, I would say that I would love to see more out of left field bookings.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
yeah.
well, Miley for last year's lineup would have been incredible. I think some people were like, wait, what, really? But a lot of people were like, yes, Miley on the Farm, that'd be incredible. I would love to see more like creative and bold bookings like that in this fourth era.
I think, honestly and truthfully, when the lineup came out, everybody was like, Miley. Oh, Miley.
Yeah. Like they may have been poisoned by their past conception of what Miley was doing. But given what she's doing recently, we're like, you know what? Yeah, that'd be awesome. We didn't realize how cool it would be until Bonnaroo gave us the idea that we might have Miley on the farm, you know? I would love to see more stuff like that. Like, I feel like the bookers may know us better than we know ourselves at some point, you know? So, yeah, surprise me with those bold choices. I would love to see more like that. One reason that 2018 was a bad lineup, like we talked about before, is I felt like they were playing it way, way, way too safe. Mm-hmm. And that is not a Bonnaroo lineup. A Bonnaroo lineup needs to be eclectic, out of left field. It needs to have a couple of, like, WTF bookings. We kind of got that this year with, like, Incubus, you know. Nelly is one of those that carried over from 2020. That is a WTF booking. You see that at first and you're like, wait, what? And then 2 seconds later you're like, yeah, you know what? That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know? I'd love to see way more like that. And not just in terms of like, oh, like 3 or 4 acts, but like take up like 20% of the lineup with those kind of WTF things. That would be great.
Okay, I guess Nelly is he the mid-tier legacy act that I'm going
We're getting old, man.
that I'm going on about.
No. Here you go. I'm going to make you feel awful. The Foo Fighters are the legacy act this year.
No.
Yes. They're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame now. Or they're about to be anyways.
Oh.
So they are. They've been around for 30 years now. Almost. So yes, they are. I hate to break it to you. But yeah, anyways, we're kind of looking ahead to the future now. But yeah, I think we are moving into a fourth era now. And I am really excited that it is getting a little bit more eclectic. And it is having more involvement from Bonnaroovians themselves. I think it's moving in a very positive direction. This is the 20th anniversary now. I can easily see this going another 20 years. Can you imagine us being really old and being at Bonnaroo celebrating the 50th anniversary?
Oh my goodness, the 50th of Bonnaroo.
I can see it happening.
Could you imagine, like, everybody out there's got their, like, Bonnaroo group or whatever.
Yeah.
Could you imagine being with your Bonnaroo group and celebrating the 50th of Bonnaroo, the 50th
Yes.
whatever.
I can see it. I mean, we talked in the last episode about how long Glastonbury has been going, and it's not stopping anytime soon.
And,
I
like,
can see the same thing happening.
Walking under the arch, and you'll have all your, like, little Bonnaroo buddies and stuff, and you'll be taking a picture under the arch.
If that's what I'm doing that many years from now, I will be very happy about it.
How old will you
be? No, we're not even gonna investigate
this
that.
This is the 20th. Okay, then that'll be 30 years from now, roughly.
So,
and how old are you now?
Well,
so you'll be
60-something. We'll be around.
You'll be like, what, like 70-ish?
We'll be around and still going until we're going at it like the Bonner Grannies. Yeah. Can we stop thinking on this? Can we stop thinking on this now? Okay, thank you. Okay, great.
Early to mid 60s.
Yeah.
I think
we're stopping there, guys. Hey, thank you so much for sticking with us through this 2-part series. This is something that we had wanted to get into for a while now and get a little bit more in depth. And the fact that you made it to the end of this is really flattering.
Yes, thank you. This was so much fun.
Yeah, it was. All right, guys. So when you hear this, it's going to be 100 days to go. It is time to really start making plans. it's going to be a fun summer, man. What's up?
If you poop once a day, it's 100 poops to go.
Okay. It's going to be more than 100 for me. I mean, wow, that is really random, but I love it anyways. All right, guys. So next week we might have a little something fun. We might be a little late because there's some fun stuff going on this weekend. You will hear more about it soon, but it looks like we're going to be able to hang out with Barry and Lord Taco from the What Podcast. So look out for something a little fun with them possibly. We'll just see Brad next time. He's just partying it up, having crawfish rolls all the time down in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. I want to eat with him, man. But we'll see everybody really soon in just 100 days. Look, y'all, I don't know if you've been looking at the news, but everything that we worried about over the past year is not worth worrying about anymore. Bonnaroo's happening. We're all going to see you there. It's going to be the biggest party in a very long time. And I'm already getting emotional about seeing you-know-who on Saturday night.
Hey, Daniel.
Yeah, what's up?
Before we go, we got to thank the Patreon.
We sure do, because I'm very thankful to them as well. Would you like to list them out?
You do it, because I did it last time.
Oh, okay. So we have got Beyond the Hypnotic, our friend Jace, Evan Brown, Jay Sanders, the wonderful and amazing Chloe Hannon, and Sean McCarthy. Thanks so much, guys. We really appreciate it. Again, if you have not listened to this part before, we are donating 80% of all Patreon proceeds directly to one of our favorite charities, the Bonnaroo Works Fund. They do amazing work. We'll show the receipts in August, right before Bonnaroo, so you can keep us honest. And if you would like to learn more and perhaps be a Patreon yourself, you can find it at patreon.com/Rubus. We have a couple of different levels that you can participate in. One to get you a shout out on the show, just like you just heard. I'll say whatever dumb joke you'd like if that's what you're into. And we got two other ones. One will get you some exclusive content. In fact, Patreons, you should log into the site. Me and Sharla put in something really funny last week that only you get to hear about. And the top tier will get you an invite to a Patreon-only VIP event at the Bus. Starting to put some plans together for that. It's going to be something weird and cool. Can't wait to see you at that.
Hey.
Yeah. You keep reminding me of these things. What's up now?
You forgot Ricky.
Ricky? Ricky the Cat is a Patreon?
Yeah.
He's giving me an evil eye right now.
A Patreon with all his Broadway money.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I've got to work on the Ricky the Cat totem for Bonnaroo. I might have to do a little something special. R.I.P. OG Ricky. His face will still be there, but maybe I've got to do something else with his successors. I've got 100 days to think about that, construct that. Will you help me out?
I will.
Yeah, 100 days, guys. Be out there thinking about what you want to put together for your fun project. Get your RuPaul's together. That time is going to fly by, and it's going to be here before you know it. And we can't wait to see you guys. What are you laughing about?
Your RuPaul.
Your RuPaul, yeah. You got to have your RuPaul full of like all your supplies and your fun giveaways and foods and things like that. You going to lie to me and say you never had a RuPaul?
Oh, yeah, I've had a RuPaul.
Oh, yeah. We got a whole bus full of RuPauls. All right, guys. Talk to you soon. Get out there and radiate positivity.
Bye. Really the Ricky Shoemaker era.
Oh, my God. Wait, before we go ahead, can you explain that joke really quickly?
So one time, see, my parents are really big into wrestling.
Yeah.
And one time on WWE, they had this special where they brought in all the old wrestlers, like really old-timey wrestlers. And my parents were in a car, and we were going out to eat, and they were having this big discussion about it. And my dad, I guess my mom didn't watch it. My dad was telling my mom all about it. And my mom was naming off all the wrestlers, and she was like, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And then she said, Ricky Shoemaker? And my dad just busted out laughing. And he said, no, but they's all from the Ricky Shoemaker era.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to put this in at the end as like a blooper or something because that was just ridiculous.
Oh, you actually putting in the bloops?
Yeah, this is a blooper. This is a blooper right now. You're blooping it, playing with that putty. It's really messing with my mind right now. Why are you doing that? Are you going to bring that putty to Bonnaroo and like just be puttying it up while you're in another dimension?
No, it'll get dirty.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hey, see you guys next time.